Hello and welcome to Rusted Junk. We are looking at the 1980 gangster film, The Long Good Friday, starring Bob Hoskins, Helen Mirren, P.H. Moriarty, Alan Ford, and Pierce Brosnan.
And lots of others.
And lots of others. Anyway, here's the trailer.
For more than 10 years, there's been peace. Everyone to his own patch. I'm setting up the biggest deal in Europe. Ladies and gentlemen, the new London. This is personal. Who's got it in for me? I want the man who knows. Is there no decency in this disgusting world? Carcass dripping blood by midnight. Nobody goes home until I find out who done it.
I told them everything, Harold.
I'm so scared. It's me that's gonna take revenge. Cut you. We got gang war on our ass, right? It's my manor. I run London.
Not now, Harold. They're taking it away from you.
Right. Well, if you'd seen that trailer kind of gives it away. So if you are listening and you're vaguely interested to go, do you know what? I want to try the YouTube thing. Skip the trailer. I know you just heard it, but it doesn't make much sense unless you've seen it. I think that trailer just pretty much gives doesn't give the whole thing away. If you've got a pause button and you pause on certain scenes, it'll ruin the whole thing for you.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But I must say, it's quite timely that we're watching a film called The Long Good Friday because it's coming up to Easter.
I don't think they had that. I'm not sure they had that in mind.
No,
they?
I mean,
Right.
We're reviewing a film that's title's quite topical.
Well, anyway.
Why would Good Friday be long? I wonder if this podcast will be long.
Well, we're about to find out. Well, on that note, if we go on like that, then yeah, it'll be about 4 hours. Anyway, it is my delight, absolute delight. Dear viewers, you already know, but dear listeners, you won't know. But there's 3 of us tonight. Myself, Amanda, whose dulcet tones you just heard, and we are joined. What do we call you? Can we give you a dynamic nickname now? Die Hard Dom.
Oh,
Papa Dom.
Papa Dom. Yeah. Well, he's back, and he's going to be. I'd say he's going to be here again. We're going to be doing lots of things, lots of guest stars. We found out doing cops and robbers. There's so many things you can just use and shoehorn in.
I can't believe. Sorry, can I just say you shoehorned in?
If you're going to talk about Bond, don't talk about Bond.
The last film, Bond. Bond isn't cops and robbers.
Bond upholds the law, I believe.
No, it
doesn't. Her Majesty's law. So yeah, doesn't he?
Well,
and if he wasn't,
as long as there's no Bond references in this review,
I can't rule that. Well,
no,
I can't rule that out.
Service, so no.
Yeah, I can't rule that out.
Mm.
Anyway, the 3 of us are here. This is going to be a good podcast.
Just the
really
3 of us.
So do you know what? I don't know. How should we do? How should we do this? I think we should let our guests go first. Do you think?
Yeah, come on then.
Yeah. So, over to you, Dom. What do you think of the film? What's the cursory thing and the score?
Well, I'm going to confess to nerves. Normally, I come into the few pods that I've been able to do with a pretty good idea about what other folk on the pod are going to think about it, and I just wouldn't be able to put any money on whether you're going to have loved it, hated it, what you thought. So yeah, so I'm really looking forward to hearing what you both have to say. But from my perspective, well, I sat down expecting, because I think of the three of us, I'm the only one that's seen it previously.
That's right.
So I thought I knew what I was going to expect when I sat down and watched it the other night. I was going to see a classic British film. That was my expectation, and if not that, then at least a classic British gangster film. You know, I'd have that experience, and to be honest, I was disappointed. I thought it was flawed. I remember watching it for the first time, and it really drew me in. I remember the channel hopping. It was on. I watched it, and I really enjoyed it. But this was not as good as I remember it being at all. I have to concede. I thought the film was a bit dated. I thought it lacked cinematic qualities, and it often kind of looked and felt a bit like a TV program rather than a film, and looked a bit cheap and a bit low budget in places. Right. However, you know, by no means did I not enjoy it at all. I just thought it had some flaws. I thought, you know, the cast of Bob Hoskins, Helen Mirren, the storyline. I thought that the kind of snapshot it portrays of London at that time in its history was really, really interesting, and there's some brilliant lines in it as well, and some classic scenes, including, of course, the ending, which I won't elaborate on too much if we're going to go through the film. But yeah. So good but flawed. I've scored it a 7 out of 10.
Wow. Do you know what? I am breathing, and you're going to go next, Amanda, but I just have to say this: I am breathing such a sigh of relief, because I had thought that I was going to be, well, my score would make Dom just get off the chair, sort of like Alistair Campbell, take his microphone off and just like leave, because I just thought it was going to be his equivalent to Stand By Me, and it's me like saying, Stand By Me's all right, kids could have done better and stuff like this, in which case Dom would just drive around here, I think, and just lamp me. So yeah,
that's a long drive.
Well, it'd be worth it.
It would for criticising Stand By Me.
Checks notes. Did we criticise? No, I don't think we.
No, we didn't.
We didn't. We loved it. It's
great. Of praise. Yeah,
it is a great film. Oh, so anyway, thank goodness. Over to you, Amanda.
Yeah, actually, pretty similar to Dom, Papa Dom. I was expecting quite a polished film, to be honest. I'd never seen the film before. I was quite looking forward to it, because I know it's held in quite high regard. I think the British Film Institute actually has it ranked at number 19 in their list of films. So it's quite surprising, actually. I did feel it, as Dom said, it felt a little bit kind of TV show kind of quality.
Yeah.
It certainly felt quite unpolished and, in a sense, raw, but not in necessarily content, in quality, I would say.
Right.
But overall, an enjoyable film. I was a little bit stunted by the ending. It just seemed to end quite abruptly, with no sort of understanding as to what really had happened or how. Well, anyway, we'll get on to that.
Yeah.
So I felt the ending was quite an abrupt ending, and I felt like quite disappointed after investing like over an hour and a half in watching it. So yeah, I was thinking, oh God, what am I actually going to score the film? Because there are parts of the film that are, you know, quality kind of scenes, scenarios, you know, goings on. Helen Mirren is great. Bob Hoskins, I think, flounders a little bit in parts of the film.
Okay.
He does do a good performance, but I think some of it is a little bit yeah, okay, fair enough, yeah. Move on.
Okay.
But I think where it's dated is since then we've had, I mean, it was filmed in 79 and released in 1980, so there's quite a number of years now that are in between.
Yeah.
And we've had a lot of British gangster movies since then, so we've grown up with the likes of things like Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, Snatch, you know, so those to me are like not the proper, but they're like the new style British gangster kind of film.
Hmm.
We've also had
It's a short thing that you give him, and then you score. It's all right. I mean,
okay, all right.
All right.
Well, I'll give it a 7.
7. Oh, thank God. Okay, that's okay. I
But
thought you were
just
going to be.
remember, I don't score very high anyway, so 7 is quite high for me.
Okay, so while I'm doing that, I'm going to say, Amanda, check your message that I just sent you. So I will let.
Your mic is tinny.
Your mic is tinny. It sounds a bit tinny. I don't know if you can if it's plugged in or
My
you're
mic
using
is
your.
tinny. Hello, tinny.
Using your.
Is that better?
I don't know. Is it plugged in?
I haven't done anything.
Oh, that was better. Yeah, because
Oh.
you were closer to it.
Oh no, I moved the woggly bit.
Right.
Is that
That's-
better?
That's slightly better, yeah, but it was really good when you were close to it.
Is that better?
Slightly.
Is that better?
Oh, that's amazing. It's like you're next
Oh,
to me.
you see, I've got to get my head right in it.
Okay, well.
Right, okay, let me do some adjustments as you.
All right, okay, don't worry. Okay, while I do that, I don't feel so bad now with my 5. And the reason for that is because I hadn't seen it, and because I thought
You
Dom.
haven't seen it?
No, I hadn't seen it.
Oh, I thought you had.
No, I hadn't seen it.
Oh, okay.
And well, because I hadn't seen it, and because I thought Dom was going to go, oh well, I give it a 9 just because of something else, and I'm like thinking that's fine. Okay, we're okay now, because we're all sort of in the same zone. We're pretty much against the Rotten Tomatoes score, which is 97% for the critics and 89% for the fans.
Yeah, I think that's quite high. But on IMDb, it's 7.9.
Well,
so
then you two are closer to it. The reason for that is because I expected more.
what score did you give it? Sorry,
5.
a 5. Oh,
Yeah.
crumbs. Right. Okay.
And I expected more. We've had in the 70s, we had The Godfather. We are 3 years away from Scarface. I wanted more violence in it. I wanted proper gangland violence. I think the closest the thing that I thought, okay, yeah, was where he had the machete and he was doing on the guy. And I was like, yeah, but it's a bit like when I said
the broken bottle.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it's more of a. I mean, even the killing right at the start, you're kind of like, well, with involving Pierce Brosnan, you're like, so you don't see anything, and I get that you don't have to see it, and the imagination can take over and fine, but I just expected more. The first half an hour of the film has no idea what it wants to do. It's
Yeah,
all
I was a
over
bit
the shop.
confused by the beginning.
Yeah, I think the final 40 minutes is pretty good. I think it's quite good. I agree with you. Helen Mirren is she to me holds the whole film together.
Well, you see, this is why I think this is actually going to be a good pod and a good thing, because I think there's a consensus that it's a mixed film. It's not, it's good in places, quite poor in places. Do we all agree on what those places are? Maybe not. And also, the critics, as you say, Charles, with the reviews and the kind of awards it got, the Empire magazine 19th best British film of all time, and all that. Really, we're not seeing it through the same lens as ours. I think that's really interesting to explore. And some of what you both said, I totally agree with. Others, I would draw the line. For example, the violence, Charles. I think that the fact that the film is quite flat in places and kind of quite almost, you can almost say mundane, but deliberately so, makes the violence actually more shocking when it occurs, as opposed to some blood-fueled American thing that we're also used to, where it's all stylized violence. It's kind of down at heel, a pimp getting slashed in the nude in the kitchen, or a guy getting his hand nailed to the floor. I don't know, for me at least, it was more almost.
It's not Scarface with the chainsaw in the hotel room in the bath, is it really?
No, but I think that's a good point. If your benchmark is, and we all, I don't know, sorry, Amanda, but I know Charles, like, Goodfellas, Godfather, these kind of classic American cinematic films, then I think Long Good Friday is only going to suffer in comparison to that.
But it shouldn't do, because Get Carter is a similar sort of vein of film, and it's far superior.
I liked Get Carter. That was a great film.
So it's even looking at it through the lens of the time and the product of the time and the films around it.
Very stylish that film.
Yeah. Oof.
I don't know. I think you say Get Carter, and that is the obvious kind of comparison. But how many more films are there like this? I'm not sure. There's a whole load of films like this. Because Amanda, you talked earlier about how we're used to things like Lock, Stock, and Snatch. But those are like the modern British.
Superior.
Yeah, but don't forget, Once Upon a Time, The Long Good Friday was a new breath of fresh air in the British gangster genre. Because prior to that, it was all Ealing gangster films, wasn't
Hammer
it?
House, Hammer House horror and stuff like that.
Well, the detectives would have capes on, and nobody ever really got hurt. And so this kind of to compare
a bit like Poirot and
it's all
Bergerac.
I'm coming quietly, governor. That sort of cliche, and it's The Long Good Friday in comparison shook that up a lot, I think.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying.
Yeah,
actually,
that makes sense. Put it in the context of the Sweeney and things like that. I mean, I don't know,
It reminds me a little bit of The Professionals, like Bodie and Doyle and that kind of thing.
That was good.
It wasn't really hard hitting, but it was okay to watch.
Yes,
it was entertaining.
That's a good point as well. Yeah, absolutely. Well, should we move to roll call? Because it's, I mean, I'm going to do it as quick as I can, but we will.
A lot to get through. And I guess that a lot of people in this roll call really won't resonate with our American audience.
No, they won't. I will try. I will try and take you into account. I had a look at where our audience are. We've got a listener in the Philippines.
Oh, hello.
Yeah.
How are you?
Absolutely.
Unless they're ghost VPNing and they're not in the Philippines at all.
Why would you do that?
Why not?
What, they left it on? They were busy downloading. I don't know, the new Moon Knight from Disney Plus. Not that anyone would pirate that. Anyway, so on to roll call. Let's do roll call. Here we go.
Roll call.
So we have to start with Bob Hoskins.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Bob Hoskins is one of those things that goes, oh my God, he's done loads of films. He's done loads of films.
He hasn't.
He has, but not many you've heard of.
He's done Roger Rabbit.
Well, and you know what? There's one. Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
Hook, the Steven Spielberg film.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
The love interest, if you can believe it, to Cher in Mermaids.
Oh, yes.
Yes. But my favourite, and the one I'm going to have to highlight, is when you see Bob Hoskins in a film called my idols, Henry Rollins, Alan Alda, Lee Marvin. I've met one of them, and it was great. I was talking to Joe about it the other day. But Alan Alda stars in a film called Sweet Liberty with Michelle Pfeiffer, Michael Caine, and Bob Hoskins. And it is about a film set that comes to a Fredericksburg to reenact. They're people that reenact it, and Hollywood is making a film of a historical book, and they get it all wrong. And Bob Hoskins plays a scriptwriter. He's brilliant, but as soon as you see Bob Hoskins like that, I can't take him seriously. I can't look at him in this film and see him as a gangster.
Really?
So I'm going to recommend Sweet Liberty because I nearly put it on today, just so that I could have that reference. But don't shoot me if you don't like it, because it might be one of those ones where you either like it or you don't. But
a bit like Marmite.
A bit like that. So Bob Hoskins. Anybody else got anything else?
What about Bob Hoskins?
Yeah, about a favourite, a role that I've missed.
BT adverts. It's good to talk.
Oh God, I forgot all about that.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah. So what I'm talking about, for those that don't know, British Telecom, our institution for telecommunications, otherwise known as the telephone, it was encouraging people to use the phone because it was good to talk.
Yeah, because they wanted to maximise. We should have said just maximise our profits.
Yeah, it's before the days of Tinternet.
Yeah.
Did you mention Mona Lisa when you were talking?
I did. In brief, but I know you like Mona Lisa. I remember you liking that a lot.
Well, yeah, I really love it, but then again, I really love Long Good Friday as well. So it's a film I'm going to return to because it's sowed a seed of doubt in my mind. But
oh dear, sorry.
Mona Lisa, here you go. Have you got the shoehorn sound effects, Charles? Because Mona Lisa got Hoskins his one and only Oscar nomination.
Oh, it's here. It's Oscar time. Yay!
No. Well, listen, this is just a little more so to whet your appetite. Well, I'm going to save the main chat for Helen Mirren. But yeah,
all right,
he got. So I'll do this one quickly. 1987 Oscars, Best Actor, Bob Hoskins, Mona Lisa, didn't win. Paul Newman won that year. 1987 Oscars, Best Actor for
Colour of Money.
Yeah, nailed it. Yeah, absolutely. So
was Tom Cruise? Have you got down there? I don't think Tom Cruise was Best Supporting Actor.
No, I've not got that. I've got so the Best Actors nominees were Newman, who won it, Dexter Gordon for Round Midnight, Bob Hoskins, Mona Lisa, William Hurt, Children of a Lesser God, and James Salvador. So
that's good as well. Oh, well.
Wait till we get to Mirren's Oscar.
well, we might have to go there now if nobody's got anything else. If nobody's got anything about, but see, let's just before we move on to Helen Mirren, Bob Hoskins acting in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, I think does that really well because he's acting with nothing. He's acting with stuff around him. This pot's going to move. This thing's going to move, and your hand needs to be there. And for him to pull off a great sort of straight man but comedy performance, I just thought I thought he was great in that.
Well, I was going to save this for trivia time, but the two little bits I got for this, one of them was relating to that. So apparently he suffered hallucinations for months after filming Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, the role was clearly, the whole point, as you say, was to act against things that weren't there. So he studied mime, and he was so used to moving around that apparently suffered hallucinations for months afterwards, which is pretty hardcore. I've had a cold recently, and that's bad enough to suffer hallucinations. That can't be fun.
Yeah, but you weren't getting paid $1.5 million probably at that point for the film or whatever.
Maybe he was hallucinating Jessica Rabbit. Who knows? Perhaps all was an upside after all.
Well, yeah, absolutely, Jessica Rabbit. Oh yes.
Oh God, you calm down, you two.
Okay, all right.
Not real.
Well, let's at that point, let's swap one sex siren for another for Helen Mirren.
Nicely done.
That's a segue. Smooth. Helen Mirren. I'll go last on this one then. What have you got, Amanda? What do you like before Dom's got his little surprise?
Well, there's that. We've talked about it before. That whole interview. Michael Parkinson about her assets, and it was so sexist. It was terrible. I'm not even going to go there again. So yeah, I think she was typecast in the sense that she'd be very willing to undress, but she's just very confident lady who was adaptable to a role where it required that. But yeah, I think she was good in this film because she gave it some depth in terms of emotion.
She's the best thing in this film.
And whilst Bob Hoskins' character was off here, there, and everywhere, he wasn't. I bet if we total up the amount of time he was actually spending with his American friends in inverted commas, the mafia from New York, he spent actually very little time with them, and she was the one that spent the majority of time. So she was there having to kind of be the glue to hold it all together, and give the charming, sophisticated sort of posher end of British society image in the film. So I think the dynamics work quite well between them. Whether or not, do you want to tell me a little bit more about like Helen Mirren films that you like? Because we're veering into the actual. Okay, what we thought. No. No, not really. Carry on. Oh, nothing else from the film point of view? No. Oh, poor Helen Mirren. She's done loads of stuff, and you didn't even pass the TV and see her in something. What's your favourite Helen Mirren film then, would you say, Amanda? I don't know. Okay. She's got the hump because I interrupted her. Oh, sorry. Well, we were talking about the film. I mean, but you're right. Helen Mirren is great in this. I'm going to go last because I think you've got your little game, and I think I might spoil it if I start reeling off some films. All right. Okay. So I think there's a case for her being our most
successful, celebrated, maybe best British actress of all time. You know, so if you look at her award list, and I mean, I think she's right there with Judi Dench and Maggie Smith. You know, she's garlanded and rewarded. She's a Dame. She's got a BAFTA Fellowship. She's Screen Actors Guild Lifetime Achievement Award and 4 Oscars nominations.
Right.
So I know you like to put Amanda on the spot with little does she know. So I'm just wondering, Charlie, you've probably predicted and researched this because it's.
I didn't know.
I'm nothing if not
I
predictable.
didn't.
Oh, you're going to do it to him? Oh, do it to
how,
him.
how many of her 4 Oscar nominations can you identify, Charlie? So I think it's 3 for Best Supporting Actress and 1 for Actress, or maybe 2 supporting, 2 for Actress.
I think she got a support. Right, I'll start off with the obscure. I think she got a supporting actress nod for Mosquito Coast. She definitely got an Oscar for The Queen.
Yeah, correct. That's right. Yeah. That's the one she won for.
Did she get supporting actor for Calendar Girls?
Nope.
Well,
no. Well, look, I'll
yeah, you're gonna have to.
Like you with Amanda, I'll spare you. You know, the protracted bullying. Yeah. So her nominations were for Madness of King George, Last Station, which was your pointless answer, and The Queen. Yeah. So.
That is a good pointless answer.
When she won it for The Queen in 2007, this is who she beats. There's quite a set of competitors here. So Penelope Cruz for Volva, fair enough. Judi Dench for Notes on a Scandal. Meryl Streep for Devil Wears Prada, and Kate Winslet for Little Children. So that was a pretty hardcore year as well.
Yeah, Meryl Streep. Yeah.
Wasn't she in another film? It's got quite a long title. The Wife, the Thief, the something, and
the cook.
His lover. The Cook, the Wife, the Thief, and his love and her lover. She's in that, isn't she?
That was an 80s film. That's maybe one to do in a future pod.
That's pretty grim.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen that one?
No.
Oh God, yeah. Let's watch that then.
Crikey, what I think of revelations. Well, how are we going to put the cook, thief? Oh, thief. There you go, robber. No, we're not doing it this season.
Oh, go on.
No. I've got more chance with Bond than I have with that. Oh, no, I mentioned Bond again.
No. Right, Don, what do you think? Should we do that as a...
I'm always in for throwing a few British films into this pod, and that's a great example. Mona Lisa would be another one. Not this series, obviously, but Rita Sue and Bob 2, that's what I really want to alienate our American listeners with.
Rita Sue and Bob 2,
I think they've turned off. I think by the time we get
subtitles on that.
By the time we get
further in roll call and start doing the dregs of British television in the 80s and 90s,
then in some cases the 2000s and the 2010s, or whatever you call them. So for Helen Mirren, for me, Caligula, because she look.
See what I have to put up with.
Well, boy, rent these sorts of things. It was quite a horrific film, really. You had to scan through a lot to get to the the
scan
bits.
it. Did you scan it? Did you?
Fast forward, yeah. One of my favourite Helen Mirren performances, and I've mentioned this film plenty of times.
I'm just bracing myself for this. Go on.
2010, the year we made contact, where it's the sequel to 2001: Space Odyssey. She stars as Commander Tanya Kabuk. She's on the Russian delegation, so she's doing a Russian accent all the time, obviously, and she's brilliant in it. As is Roy Scheider, as is John Lithgow, as is everybody in that film. Just watch it. I've been telling you since season 1 to watch it. If you haven't watched it by now, just go and watch it. Mosquito Coast. She was DCI Jane Tennyson in Prime Suspect.
Prime Suspect,
of course.
That was a series of its time, wasn't it?
She played the same character in the Zig and Zag movie. I didn't even know there was a Zig and Zag movie, but apparently she appears in it as herself.
I can't believe you dealt with Prime Suspect in the blink of an eye and went on to Zig and Zag. You know,
no, that's smooth.
Right. Okay.
BAFTA awards. She won it 3 times on the trot for that.
But never. Yeah, but A, we've got to get a shimmy on, and B, the listeners in everywhere else are going, Prime Suspect. Is that like Remington Steele? Oh, which we may get to. But anyway, look at me shoehorning it in. There is another side to Helen Mirren where she filmed Red with Bruce Willis. and a cast. You had John Malkovich in that as well. She made the sequel, Red 2, and she played Queenie in the Fast and Furious films, and she's brilliant in that. And you're like, she can. You may have a really good point there, Dom, that she might have a case for she can turn her hand to anything, and she can make you believe that she's Jason Statham's mum, and you're like, yeah, I'm fine with that. Yeah, it's perfect.
And the Queen.
And she can put The Rock in his place, and you're like, yeah, and then she goes and plays the Queen. Absolutely, right. This is going to be. I've got one more to do, and then it's going to be scattergun, and it's not the one that you think it's going to be. P.H. Moriarty.
Isn't Moriarty Sherlock Holmes, sir?
Well, yes,
Right.
and I'm sure if I delve deep, then I would know that this whether his real name or whether it's a pseudonym. But he starred in Scum, and he's in one of my favourite films of the 80s.
He's not in Ferris Bueller, is he?
He's not in Ferris
Or
Bueller.
Jaws?
If he was, that'd
He's
be
in-
good, wouldn't it? Beauty,
he-
you start.
He plays Jack Tate, who's the sidekick to Simon Fitzroy, played by Simon McCorkindale in Jaws 3.
I said Jaws.
You said Jaws. I was like, that's 75.
Well, you know.
Okay. Well, Jaws 3, yeah.
All right.
He's great in that. Especially when his boss gets it. Spoiler alert. He was also Hatchet Harry in Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. So, yeah. Anything else for P.H. Moriarty? Anyone?
Anyone?
Pierce,
That's the fullest tribute that's ever been paid to him by any person. I don't think his
I
funeral
love
would
it.
be-
I genuinely I love him in Jaws 3. He plays a good character. He plays a solid character. I stuck it on today in the background while I was doing some admin stuff, so it's just playing. And then I thought, no, we can't shoehorn it Jaws 3 into the season. There is no cops. There are no robbers. But we need to watch that in 3D, and I've got it in 3D. And so when we watch it and do Jaws, Amanda, we're going to do it properly.
We'll have to mess up Amy's room because the 3D telly's in her room.
I know, we'll sort that out.
For more normal people, though, his role in Lock, Stock is much more memorable and famous, and he's great.
Yes.
In that.
Normal people. Right, okay. All right, calm down. Jaws 3 was popular at the time, thank you.
Oh,
you know.
shut up with your Jaws. Goodness
Right.
me.
Paul Freeman, who was the I should have written the character names. I did for some of them. He was Belloc in Raiders of the Lost Ark. He's also in Who Dares Wins. He was Gustav Reichmann in Falcon Crest. All those Falcon Crest fans out there. He also starred as Moriarty in Without a Clue, and he was the Reverend in Hot Fuzz more recently. But as soon as you saw his, you went, that's Belloc from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yeah, definitely. So now we get to
Charlie from Holby City.
Yes.
Are we gonna right? Okay, yes.
How can we not have opened with him? Yeah, it's like Hoskins, Mirren, Charlie from Casualty. That order, sure.
Yeah, well, yes, you're right. He was also in Brookside before he was in Charity, before he was in Casualty. But yeah, for those for every listener outside of the UK going, nope, no idea.
I thought he was a weak link in this film. I have to say, I thought he was sucked the life out of the film when he was.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think he would have done things to Helen Mirren if it was unchecked. I mean, she looked like she could hold her own. I mean, she looked like she could hold her own, but thankfully
She didn't look like she didn't want to, though, did she?
well,
Only because the lift pinged and it was time for her to get out.
no, I looked at it in a different way. It's a lot more sinister.
No, I think she was up for it. I think there was some history there. It wasn't the first time.
Okay. Right. Well, I thought even if there wasn't some history now, it's probably a really bad idea to shag the gangsters mole, as they say. But yeah. Well, what else can we say about Derek Thompson? That's it.
I think
That's it, folks.
We need some quick fire stuff here because we've got some TV royalty, haven't we? We've got Jacko from Brushstrokes.
Let's do Carl Harmon, Jacko from Brushstrokes. It was also Buster Briggs in EastEnders. I don't watch it. So for EastEnders fans, again, sorry, it's a British film. Our listeners from everywhere else, but honestly, our UK listeners are on the edge of the seat now going, what other classic actor are they going to name next?
They got a really young Dexter Fletcher.
They have, from
Press Gang.
Press Gang, absolutely. He was, and I said this at the end of the film, and you, yes, he was. He was also in a film called The Rachel Papers with Ione Skye, who was in Say Anything, and it's worth checking out for you obscure film fans. But now he's a successful director now, isn't he?
Apparently so. You pointed that out to me.
I did.
After you watched the film.
And one of the things that I didn't write down is what he was a successful director of. But I'm sure that he was. I'm sure that you could busily look on your phone and then point that out at some point and look at the director bit, not the actor. He didn't direct Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. Brian Marshall, who played Harris, the Councillor Harris. For those BMX Bandits fans, you will recognise him as the boss. But for those who don't like BMX Bandits, what is he? What am I talking about? Carl Harmon, Jacko, we've mentioned. But how? We are saving the best for last. Well, in fact, I will save the best for last. I'll go on to who played in the credits, First Irishman. And it was.
Well, that was your man, wasn't it? Bond. Here he is again, James Bond.
He is.
He looks different, though. I'm sure he's had his teeth done since then.
Yeah, well, he popped up. I mean, what the film I eventually put on this afternoon was The World's End, the third film after the Cornetto trilogies, they say, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End. And lo and behold, Pierce Brosnan pops up in that. And I didn't have it down in the list. But
I've got Dexter Fletcher incoming.
Go for it. Oh, right, okay.
He was director. His debut was Wild Bill in 2011.
Okay.
Don't know that one. He also directed Sunshine on Leith in 2013. Yep. Another British film, wasn't it? And
Proclaimer's soundtrack tells you everything you need to know about that one.
And Eddie
just on repeat.
Eddie the shush you lot, rowdy lots. Eddie the Eagle, another British iconic character.
Yeah, that's good.
2015.
Taron Egerton played Eddie the Eagle. Yeah.
He replaced Bryan Singer as director of Bohemian Rhapsody in October 2018. And in 2019, he directed Rocketman.
Rocketman, yeah.
A film based on the life of Elton John. Is that the one with
Taron Egerton again?
That's him, yeah.
Yeah, likes him. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, yeah, Dexter Fletcher, even.
I used to have a crush. I used to have a crush on him when I watched.
That's a decent career arc, though, isn't it? There, I mean, those are two pretty decent films. Sounds like he's got more to come. Really, he's in the.
Yeah, I think so.
He was also in, if you remember, Bugsy Malone.
Oh goodness me!
He was very young in Bugsy Malone.
Well, he's very young in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1976. It was Bugsy Malone.
Wow.
Love that film.
Right. So, without mentioning Bond, Pierce Brosnan. Come on, tell me some Pierce Brosnan delights that you have, or if you may not. Do you not like him?
My daughter would recognise him from Percy Jackson. That's where she.
All right. Okay.
Oh, Mamma Mia!
Yeah, absolutely.
He was also in Dante's Peak.
Oh, film, great film. He was.
That's it now, isn't it?
No, let's. Whoa! I'm going to make the case for Pierce Brosnan. So I remember seeing a 1985 film called Taffin. That was on VHS by Irish gangsters. He was very good in that. He was the standout. He was the lead in that. Then, of course, he veers over to Hollywood more. He goes to The Lawnmower Man, which he was in with Jeff Fahey. He was also in Mrs. Doubtfire. He then got the gig for Bond, starring in GoldenEye. He did 4 Bond films. The last one was pretty awful. I remember you, me, and the other lot from Capital One having an outing to see the Die Another Day, which was awful.
Was that the invisible car?
The invisible car, yes.
I think that was this whole series low point, not just for him, but for the
Maybe the series as a whole. Yes, I think you might be right. But obviously, in between Bond, we've got Mars Attacks, Dante's Peak, is what you just said. Remember, he was in the Eurovision film, Amanda, The Story of Fire Saga. He played played Will Ferrell's dad. Yeah, that's brilliant in that. I've got to watch that again. And he's also going to be Dr. Fate in the upcoming rock film Black Adam. So there you go. He makes his Marvel debut. Or maybe DC. I don't know. Joe, don't hate me. And I'm going to save the best for last. Then, if we had that for Pierce Brosnan, I don't know if you've got any other. I think he makes an exceptionally good Bond. I know Joe doesn't agree with me, and I know that after listening to the podcast, there's so many different strands. Dom's already said I'm going to be on the one. What I think that we have to do is set a watch the intro and the song for each Bond film. You don't necessarily have to watch the whole film because we'll be rating the songs and be rating the first intros to them. Probably draw them out of a hat, I think, and then we'll have like a knockout round on it.
How far back you going?
The whole lot.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we'll draw them all out of a hat, and let's hope he says the spy who loved me. But anyway, right. Or Tomorrow Never Dies. Either one of those. So finally, then to last, Alan Ford, Terence and Lilyhammer, the series with Steve Van Sant, the narrator of Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, but possibly the most, I think, iconic British character of all time is Bricktop in Snatch. He is just exceptional. You feel it. He's menacing. Hatchet Harry was menacing, and P.H. Moriarty did a great job in Lock, Stock, and Two Barrels. And then Alan Ford came and said, "Hold my beer. This is how it's done." That's incredible. It's incredible because he's just got this. I mean, he's the king of swearing, or probably second only to Ben Kingsley in Sexy Beast. But he's definitely, or maybe joint top, Alan Ford, and he barely got a line. He barely had anything, and I'm like, expecting to come in and go. I was just about to try and impersonate him, but there's nothing I can impersonate without getting the explicit tag on the podcast. Anyway, there we go. We managed to make it. Roll call. Right. So into the film, I will give you a brief premise of the first bit. So for people who haven't seen it, here is the synopsis for the first part that we'll be talking about. So the film opens with a man delivering money to an unknown recipient in Belfast in the process of taking some of the cash for himself. As the recipients are counting the money in a country farmhouse, are attacked by uniformed gunmen. Soon afterwards, Phil, the driver of the delivery, is kidnapped and killed. Later, the delivery man, Colin, is murdered at a London swimming pool. Harold Shand, played by Bob Hoskins, is a London gangster, is aspiring to become a legitimate businessman and trying to form a partnership with Charlie, boss of the American mafia, with a plan to redevelop London Docklands in association with local construction boss, Councillor Harris. Shand's world is suddenly destabilised by a series of bomb attacks on his property and murders of his associates, including his old friend Colin. He and his henchmen try to uncover the attackers' identities by threatening corrupt police officers, informers, and other criminals, while simultaneously trying to not to worry their visitors, fearing the Americans will abandon him if they think he is not in full control. So this is the bit where I think that the start of the film wanes. I have to say, I have not seen such bad acting as the American delegation. If they were supposed, I missed that they're supposed to be the mafia until about 2/3 of the way through. Call yourself the mafia, and I'm like, what? What? I just thought this some guy that owned a hotel or something like that. I mean, like menacing. Yeah. So it's a strongish start by setting everybody up. It's nice to see the old £10 notes. It's nice to see the old trains. It's nice to see the old London. But yeah, I don't know. I just think it's a weak opening, I'm afraid.
Well, I'm glad you got that thing comments about the mafia off your chest, because clearly that's been playing on your mind.
Oh God, it's just like
if that's done.
it's almost like silent. All these things are going on. All these bombs are going off. All these people are getting murdered. But we're just going to stick around. And it's almost like he should have a cigar in his mouth going, we'll give you 24 hours, to turn things around. And I'm like, if you're the mafia, you're used to these sort of things. You go, do you want a hand? Do you want a hand getting rid of these people? Because
we'll do it properly. Because you've tried so many times.
My boy will give you a hand, but they just seem to be eating all the time and staying in the hotel room. They didn't even go out and see the sights. And I'm like, what? Anyway.
I thought it was quite funny when they put them on the boat. Supposed to be this lovely yacht. They sailed at the Thames, and then they harboured up moored up in these like docklands that I think they were supposed to be developing. And the whole point is they're a bit of a SH1T hole, these docks, aren't they? And they moor up in the docks, and you're like,
it's hardly the casino. It's hardly the casino at Monte Carlo.
It's not very picturesque, is it? It's not very satisfying for the prospective business partners that you've got. Yeah, come aboard my lovely yacht, and I'll take you to this disused like docklands and moor up there, and you can like just sit there for a bit.
Well, I thought we'd got the mafia out of our systems, but perhaps not. But I think the point of showing them where the docklands was is because that's the area that's being redeveloped, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. But there's no need to like, I was going to say park your boat there, but that's essentially what he did for the whole film. The boat was there.
I thought what was strange about the way that was set up was that, like, it's not like any London that I've ever been to or recognised. It was like London in the heart of the pandemic, or in 28 Days Later. There's no other people or cars or anything, is it? It's like the world's ended and we've parked you in this dock, and yeah, there's not so much as a bird in the sky, or just deathly silence. They'd obviously been filming it at like 6 o'clock in the morning, I think, with all the traffic just packed up outside. But yeah, it was a bit uncanny. But I think we are starting the film about a third of the way through here. I mean, there's a whole kind of bunch of stuff.
Oh, right, okay.
I'm not saying we painstakingly.
No, it's fine. No, that's not. No, we described the first bit of it and then decide what we like. I mean,
one of the things I think that's interesting about the film and the way it starts and indeed goes throughout is the plot isn't kind of spoon fed to you. It doesn't make a lot of sense, some of it.
It doesn't.
Yeah, and you kind of, so whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, I guess.
It's not a good thing. You can't piece it together until you got to the end.
Yeah.
Like, halfway through the film, I was like, I still couldn't work out what the first bit was about.
Yeah.
With these guys, I didn't even know it was in Belfast.
Yeah.
I completely missed that. Was there anything that would give that away? Because it just looked like a house in the country.
Well, generally, if there's men walking around in balaclava shooting each other, Belfast's not bad. Where it might
typecasting, are you there, Dom? Papa Dom?
But yeah, I can definitely see why it would grate on some people when there's just these random series of events that are interspersed with no kind of explanation. I mean, there isn't even any dialogue, is there? In about
no. Do you know what? It was really funny because Charles was like, "Is there something wrong with the sound? I can't hear them talk." I went, "No, I think it's the ambience of the film, darling. You don't actually hear the first people talk until they're sat down at the table." Do you remember?
Yeah, we watched it in mono.
Yeah, but even so, there wasn't really anybody talking. There was no proper dialogue going on. It was all music.
But now I see the point now.
And
the way that Dom describes it, I see the point. It's building something, and it's not necessarily saying we're going to get you from point A to point B quite quickly, and then we're going to get you to C.
Yeah, but I think they've come in, just like you have to get the mafia system. The thing I've got to get out of my system. One part of the film that's kind of lauded is the soundtrack, this synth soundtrack by Francis Monkman. He's even gets acknowledged and called out for it. I hated it. That kind of synthesizer sound effect. It made me feel sick after a while. It was like, do you remember when you were all of a certain age, on a rainy day at school, they used to wheel in the TV, physically have to wheel it into the room.
Yeah. Watch words and pictures. Yeah.
There's some zero budget, dubious educational value thing you have to sit through. It was just horrifically acting. Much worse than this or any film we've reviewed on this pod. That was like the background noise to that. And I was having flashbacks to being 8 years old and overly hot in the staff room watching some dreadful nonsense. And so the soundtrack for me, that synthy noise was awful.
Did it bring back reasons why you should never play in the canal?
Right, yeah.
I mean, the scariest advert I think I've ever seen and possibly will ever see. I am death.
Wasn't death in the canal or something?
I am death. You're Grim Reaper. The Grim Reaper right next to the kids.
Just give me a hand with this lock, love.
Yeah.
Get that frisbee down from the power station.
There's Casio keyboard in the background.
Anyway, yeah. Sorry, Don.
Yes, the soundtrack, not a fan.
Okay.
Right.
Bond gets one line in this. Sorry, Bond. Pierce Brosnan gets one line in this. What is it? I don't want to remember.
Oh, it's when he is supposed to be. It was in the shower, isn't he?
It's one word.
Like eyeing up
it's not
the guy
even
in
one
the
line.
pool.
It's one
I
word.
can't remember what it is.
Hi. That's it. That's all he says in the entire
That's
film.
not a line. That's a word.
Well, do you know what? There's part of me that actually wants to skip forward a bit just to say that the German Blu-ray cover for the long Good Friday advertises Bob Hoskins, Helen Mirren, and Pierce Brosnan as the lead characters.
How can they be lead?
Yep. So the cover was changed to include Pierce
Well,
Brosnan.
I suppose they wouldn't know Charlie from Casualty, would they?
What? Surely the chef from Faulty Towers or Denzel from Only Fools and Horses.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. God, sorry, yeah, we missed him out.
Oh, bless
The chef
you.
from Faulty Towers, brilliant.
Don't mention the war.
There is this kind of sort of gay undertone to parts of the film, isn't there? Well, not even an undertone, gay scenes.
That's quite brave, I suppose, for that time.
Well, I just think the film's quite enlightened at that stage, and it doesn't treat it, although he does get murdered. It's it's not. Anyway, the point here I'm trying to make is it's reasonably liberal in his treatment of gay people.
Yeah.
Black people less liberal later on in the film. I thought there was some pretty. I know the character's supposed to be a racist, but that was a little
There's some
bit.
casual nationalism in there when they're talking about the French as well. So I mean,
And the Germans.
part of the course, yeah, and the Irish. Well, spoiler alert. But Pierce Brosnan's in it, so it's gonna.
You upgrade your score based on that, then, Charlie. Has it reached the 6 when they started insulting our European neighbours? Is that yeah?
Oh, I know. Yes, it offended my European sense of cosmopolitanism. Is that an ism? No. Yeah, I don't think Bob Hoskins comes across as a gangster. He doesn't come across as anyone scary. He doesn't scare me at all.
It doesn't come across as a commanding leader.
However, if you watch the trailer, if you watch this on YouTube, go and watch it on YouTube. If you want a bit of a laugh, you can see our reactions. If you watch that trailer, you go, "Oh yeah, Bob Hoskins." And I suppose you can do anything with a good edit, really. Anyway, yes. So I know you were talking about a bit more about Helen Mirren and her role in this, Amanda. So yeah, do you want to elaborate a bit more on that? Because I think she helped set up the film, didn't she?
Yeah, she was. I don't know if she was playing a upper middle class character, as she wasn't an upper. No, hang on. The character wasn't actually from that socioeconomic background as such, or whether she was actually from that socioeconomic background. So we don't really know, because we don't know her history at all. But they were talking about or whether she could just put on a really good posh front and accent and dress very classily, because they were talking, weren't they, when he first arrived on the yacht. She was talking about the arrangements and stuff, and he said, oh yeah, they were talking about hockey. Oh yeah, Princess Anne, wasn't it, talking about Princess Anne and mentioning her to the Americans.
Yeah.
And she says, oh, I couldn't possibly say that I played hockey, lacrosse, darling, and like, hockey's terribly vulgar. That kind of thing. So you're like, oh, okay, fair enough. So I don't know if she was actually, of that.
Yeah.
There was that good line, wasn't there? The Yanks love snobbery. They really feel like they've arrived in England if the upper classes treat them like rude word.
Filth.
Yeah, so I think overall she did a really, really good job of portraying that sort of character. She was the one to kind of, keep Bob Hoskins's character on the level, because he kind of went a bit mad, didn't he? But she slapped him around a bit and got him to kind of get himself together.
Yeah.
So she was actually quite a supportive character, and obviously when he was out and about doing all his tracing and investigating who was targeting him and his company, what do you call it, corporation with the bombs, he was off out and about. She was holding it all together, but she knew exactly how to do that. So she was very skilled in making people feel welcome and calm and entertaining and being very lovely. So yeah, I actually liked her character.
Yeah, definitely. And from her character to, again, one of the worst performances in the film, the bent copper. Oh God, it was awful. And when Bob Hoskins spoiler, I'm going to fast forward at the end. Bob Hoskins challenges him in the abattoir and it's like, you are going to do this. This is supposed to be a hardened policeman. He folds like a deck of cards. I mean, he's like, he's gone, and it's more like he's scared. And I'm like, okay, you're not John Thor in the Sweeney, are you? Really? Not that he was bent. Are we allowed to say that? I'm sorry, I forgot. I've got to tick a box for that one. Are we allowed to corrupt?
No, because you're not using it in the derogatory sexual sense.
Well, I am. I'm calling them corrupt, but I suppose, yeah,
no,
not
sexually corrupt.
I'm not going to comment on John Thor's outside sexual things, but yeah, okay, you're right. In that context, that's the context that I mean.
Bent copper means that they're not legit, and they are susceptible for doing a deal that's dodgy, that's
wrong un. Yeah,
that's not lawful, basically. So they're willing to take bribes and cash favors in order to pervert the course of justice.
Great. So that means that I don't have to explain what the to the Americans if we use another word for cigarette. Oh, thank goodness! Right. Not that we're going to, but yeah, it's fine. It may come up, and if it was going to come up, it probably would have come up in this film, but it doesn't. So thankfully, we're moving on. Right. Okay. Well, we went through anything else for the start of the film? I mean, there's quite a lot of. Yeah. Okay. Right. Well, to the next part. Shan's girlfriend, Victoria, tells the mafia representatives, comes clean and says he's under attack from an unknown enemy, but assures them Shan's working quickly to resolve the crisis. She starts to suspect his right-hand man, Jeff, who knows more about who's behind the attacks than he claims. After some investigation, Shan confronts Jeff, who confesses that under pressure from Councillor Harris, he sent Colin and Phil to Belfast to deliver money to the IRA on behalf of Harris. He explains that 3 of the IRM's top men were killed on the same night after the money was delivered. Shan realizes the IRA have come to the conclusion that he sold them out to the security forces, pocketed the missing cash for himself, and are targeting his organisation in revenge. Vowing to destroy the terrorist organisation in London, Shan loses his temper and kills Jeff in a frenzy. This is where that last bit is where the film starts coming alive, I think, personally. But there's again the table where Helen, around the dinner table, it's almost like the pub blows up. See, again, I'm not finished with the Americans, Dom. I've got one more. The pub blows up, and she goes, instead of going, "Oh my God, what's going on around us?" I'll tell you what. Can you take him to dinner? And I'll be right behind you. He wasn't right behind him. He was organising all his boys with the shotguns and the shooters, right, to go round and to the abattoir and round up he never had an intention of going there. I mean, it was going to be that would take hours in order to do that. Meanwhile, Helen Mirren's put on the spot with the Americans, not looking menacing at all. The only reason she says anything is because they say, "Oh, we're going to go home." What now? You're going to go home? What tips you over the edge? Was it the 3 murders that you witnessed? Was it the pub blowing up? You know, I mean, what part of it is? And again, they're not proper mafia. They didn't roll the sleeves up and give them a hand. So yeah, and that is it for the mafia. Honestly, no more. Dom, I promise. Oh, so this bit with all the revelations, how do we feel where it all started to make sense? What you said at the start is it wasn't spoon fed, but you're getting to the point now that right, okay, now it's livening up because they've got a formidable foe in the sense of the IRA.
Well, Harris, the councillor, who's obviously got the property deals, becomes very drunk at the table, doesn't he? And he says, "Oh, what was his thing? He's not the real man or something." What was his quote? I can't remember.
It's that was a series of bad acting with Helen Mirren just watching.
Oh, he was awful though, wasn't he? You could tell he was supposedly playing this drunk person, but it was really bad.
Yeah.
But she still managed to hold it together though, didn't she? Even like with the bad acting, she you know, she kind of still was entertaining and being the you know, lovely lady that she was supposed to be. So yeah, it just I don't know.
It wasn't just badly acted though, was it? It was like badly shot. It was like obviously blatantly 2 cameras for the entire scene that they've just flipped between them. That's why it felt like a television program, I think. And it's not like Goodfellas where there's one tracking shot that goes on for minutes and it's all beautifully choreographed. Here it felt like an episode of Howard's Way.
Howard's Way.
It was. It was pretty limited in its scope and vision, really. I mean, I don't know if the director was secretly trying to sabotage the film or working to rule or something, but it was, the dramatic impact was lessened. So I think Helen Mirren did a lot of the heavy lifting, frankly. And if it hadn't been for her, I think it really would have started to sag quite badly in the middle. Because even the kind of dramatic scenes, like the bomb going off, it's not a convincing bomb explosion, is it? Really, with members of the public running around. There's again 0 other people in the vicinity, and it's all just localized to these to the people who are in the film. So
at that point in the film, I did wonder whether the character, obviously Victoria, who Helen Mirren was playing, whether she was actually behind it or whether she was double crossing. I did wonder that because she just felt like she was more in command and more in control, and I kept a sort of a level head. And I did wonder if she was actually behind it at that point.
Yeah, and that's maybe a benefit of the film, is that because at this stage it's not all explained. You don't quite know who is there a double crosser. What's going on? Why? Who is it who's undermining his gang? And I agree. I think she was kind of a rich enough character, unlike others, who that was believable, and so
she planted the seed in Bob's character in his head to say, is it Jeff that Charlie from Casualty was playing?
Yeah.
I'll just call him Charlie. Jeff, that he where was he? What was he doing? And was there something else underlying it? So she planted that seed, didn't she? So she kind of knew that there was something not quite right going on.
See, I didn't get that, and it was a nice surprise for somebody who hadn't seen it before. I don't know what to say. Nice surprise to find out it was the IRA, but I mean, it was a nice surprise because you were kind of guessing who's doing what and thinking it really was Charlie from Casualty, or perhaps it was Kathy Beale.
Kathy Beale!
To drop another one in for our
opening up the. Who was the guy that was nailed down on the floor? Who was that? I just didn't understand that.
Yeah, there was clearly some issues with post-production and editing around that, wasn't that? Because that was just very odd. Was he something through the night watchman or the security guard or something like that? But there was that there was that brilliant line, and I did make a note of this later on that came from that, which was Harold's talking to Jeff, and Harold says, Alan found him dying. He'd been nailed to the floor. And Jeff said, oh, when was this then? He said, Harold, well, it must have been just after you saw him, but just before Alan saw him. Otherwise, you'd have noticed, wouldn't you? I mean, a geezer nailed to the floor. A man of your education would have spotted that, wouldn't he? You know, so there were some brilliant lines in there, you know, vast majority of which were delivered by Bob Hoskins. So I'm definitely more up on Hoskins' performance than you two.
Yes, clearly.
Yeah, man of your education would have spotted that. That was a brilliant line.
Yeah, but I thought he was doing that in order to wheedle out from Jeff what he was actually up to, because he was obviously done something and not told Bob, it's going Bob, hadn't told him what was going on. So he didn't know the full picture. So he had nothing, he knew nothing about Jeff getting spat on at that funeral sort of procession thing, did he? He knew nothing about that, and none of that of the fact that, you know, some of his crew was sent over to Belfast to drop some money off. Knew nothing about it, which is really bad.
Well, if you take Dom's, you know, if it's balaclavas and shotguns, it's going to be the IRA. We find out in the first scene, really, and it should have been there for everyone to guess.
I think you're typecasting now.
Okay, so in 1992, Patriot Games was made, where they swapped the best Jack Ryan, Alec Baldwin, for the worst Jack. Well, no, not the worst Jack Ryan. That was Chris Pine, for Harrison Ford in Patriot Games. Oh, if you want bad Irish accents, you've come to the right. Yeah, you've come to the right place.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, is that Indian?
Anyway,
With a little touch of Welsh.
Anyway, enough of that. Can we point out that the Yanks finally have had enough and they go home? Before Charlie from Casualty, aka Jeff, gets killed. Right. Well, onto the final bit. After confronting Harris, Shannon sets up a meeting with the IRA's London leadership at Stock Car Racetrack. He offers them £60,000 in return for a ceasefire, but double crosses them and has them and Harris shot as they're counting the cash. Believing his enemies are dead and the problem solved, Shan travels to the Savoy Hotel to triumphantly inform Charlie and his assistant Tony, only to find the Americans preparing to leave, having been spooked by the carnage. In response to their derisory comments about the UK, he berates them for their arrogance and dismisses them as cowards. Leaving the hotel, Shan steps into his chauffeur-driven car, only to find it's been commandeered by IRA assassins. As the car speeds to an unknown destination, Shan contemplates the inevitability of his fate. Hoskins in the same shot, although they weren't. They shot those scenes separately, so they never saw each other on set.
I know Amanda was a little critical of the ending at the start of this, but
yeah, she's right.
She's right. Well, here we go then. I'll just come out and be the odd one out then. But I thought it was the best bit of the film, and I do remember very distinctly when I saw it for the first time, that ending and that kind of long tracking shot on his face when all these emotions are playing over it, and you know, this he resigns himself to his fate, and he kind of thinks about what he's lost and what's to. I just thought it was really, really powerful filmmaking, and for me, that's the bit of the film that I will always remember.
Okay, all right.
I watching that, I just thought, oh, he's got really long bottom teeth.
Yeah,
you're obviously taking it in, aren't you, for the artistic? Yeah.
It's from a very unflattering angle, isn't it?
It was. Yeah, it wasn't.
Angle, underneath you with the light shining up like that, but it's but I just thought it was a really, really well acted, you know, because it's not like pantomime style reactions and emotions. It's kind of in his eyes and in his expression and his. I realise you've both already declared that you didn't like the scene, so I'm fighting a losing battle here.
No, but I'm
interested to hear your
absolutely
your version of it.
Yeah.
But so I think the length of it is unusual. You know, it's an extended scene, isn't it? And you know, and then as you say, Amanda, it does end after that.
Just stops. Yeah.
So for me, it's like the power of the imagination. You know, he's going off to be executed, possibly tortured and executed, and not only is he contemplate the imminent end of his life, but his dream. You know, he's gone. He's seen his wife or his partner, Helen Mirren character bundle off in a cab heading in the
Yeah,
other
but
direction.
it's Dom. It's entirely of his making. Why didn't he just give him the 60 grand and walk away?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense. He double crossed them.
I don't think he fully understood who that organisation was and
I
how.
think if you were in the 80s and 70s and 80s in London, you know exactly who the IRA was. Yeah.
Do you think? Maybe he thought it was bigger. Maybe it was delusions of grandeur.
Maybe.
Yeah, hubris, isn't it? This is the thing. He thinks he can take on the IRA, and there's another good line in there about the British Army who've been trying to do it for 10 years.
Yeah, good luck with that one. Yeah.
You can do it, and that's what, because he's just given the scene immediately before the cab is when the mafia are about to leave, and he finally kind of lays into them and reveals what he thinks about them, and basically calls them out, Charles, for what, like you were saying earlier, not being man enough, not wanting to get their hands dirty, and then he's the man who's going to sort it out, and he bullet chested stomps out, goes into his cab, sits down, and then suddenly like a light's been flipped, he's now the victim, and he suddenly realizes and contemplated that he's underestimated it, and
Do you think he was being carted off to be killed then?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, the scene prior to the hotel scene is where he double crosses them in that stock car racing thing.
Yeah.
That, has a couple of them blown away, and with the money.
Do you not think that they'd use him to front?
No, I think he was going to be.
Like the development and still get the money, but the money would actually go to the IRA instead. You don't think that would have happened?
No, I think it was like much more Shakespearean than that. I think it was vengeance and death for him. I think he'd be shot and tortured and buried in a shallow grave, maybe never to be discovered. That which was how they did things, wasn't it?
And I think the look on his face. I mean, the look on his face is he's resigned to his fate. That
you see, I didn't get that. I didn't get that at all. I thought,
really? Okay.
Well,
maybe it's a better
next?
shot than we think then, or maybe a better shot than I think, because we're interpreting it differently.
I just think for a film which is really limited in places, really dated, and some of it is like it is televisual standard. I think actually this end scene, the bit where he comes to terms with the Americans, he tells it like it is, storms off, gets in. I think that's kind of like a bit of an acting masterclass, and I think talks to the talent that Bob Hoskins had, and I think does salvaging and is definitely a factor in some of the score that I gave, which perhaps some of the rest of the film doesn't deserve. Towards the end, I think that is cinematic and that's kind of memorable, in my opinion. That's how I enjoyed it.
Right. Okay.
But this is why I think it's a good film to review, because you can definitely watch it and have a different experience.
Yeah. And there are some people that hold this up as one of their favorite films, and fine. I mean, people look at me and go, well, "How do you like Howard the Duck?" See, I managed to get it in there again. People look at me and say, "How do you think it's Howard the Duck?" And Amanda obviously thinks it's above average, but we are in this zone of people like what they like, and I get it.
One thing I did think about the movie, the bit where he rounds up sort of like the heads of the district gangs,
hangs them upside down in the abattoir.
Yeah. I didn't think that was particularly conducive to him being respected.
Do you not think that they would come after him?
Yes.
If I was hung upside down in an abattoir because you didn't do your research properly,
yes,
right, then you've challenged my authority. So
yes,
there's 6 people that are going to come after you. So you've got the IRA and 6 of you.
Yeah. Unless he's seen as the Don of the London sort of boroughs.
I don't know. Well, I don't know, actually. That's an interesting one. What do you reckon?
Whether they worked for him, but sort of semi-independently, whether he allowed them, I don't know. But I just felt that was a really uncalculated,
they were captured quite
miscalculated
easily.
Move, because that could end up being to his detriment.
I think the point the film's making here is he sees himself as a visionary. He's almost trying to go straight, isn't he? Or he sees a way of making even more money than his previous criminal past has given him, and so that's how he sees himself, a cut above these other thugs and hoodlums that are kind of under his control. And yet, he's got them all hung upside down by their ankles in this abattoir. What he doesn't realise, what we don't find out until later, is that actually he's playing with forces that he is underestimating and can't control. It's actually him that's the little man in comparison. And so I think that's what that scene kind of reinforces, is actually he feels he's a visionary, but actually he's already a relic, and he's got a very short shelf life left.
Yeah.
So
He's merely a minnow in the sea of sharks.
Yeah, and that word again, hubris. This is why pride comes before a fall, doesn't it? I think it's these are the sorts of themes which are explored in the film, and that again, to go back to that final scene, I think there's an element of realization there, and he's kind of understanding his place in the world and in the pecking order in the hierarchy, and it shatters his illusion.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I like your.
I think there's another scene that we should talk about. So the abattoir scene's the end scene's very famous. The abattoir scene's very famous. The other scene I thought was important to the film was the one where they go to, what's the character called? The brilliantly named, is it Eric the Ponce? Is that what it is? And this is to our British listeners, Only Fools and Horses. Small time pimp, and it was revealed to be a grass in bed with a woman who's probably dragged out naked and set upon by razors, isn't he?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was some genuine menace, because you're like, oh, right, okay, this is how he's got his. So you find out why he's got his nickname, and you can see why he gets his nickname.
Have you got any trivia on this, by the way?
No, have you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want me to read it?
Well, no. Should we do? Well, I don't know. I think that's that scene is. Yeah, I mean, that's probably a good segue into trivia time. Should we go into trivia time and then do it that way? There's still probably a bit more to discuss in this, and I've got some great trivia, which will probably spark some great conversations. So let's go into trivia time.
Trivia time.
Go first then. Unusually,
right. I've got 2 bits. Right.
Whoa.
So, the guy that's playing the Ponce. He says, I went along to Brixton where they were filming the scene, and John said to me, go and wait in the pub and learn your lines. So there's no audition. He just said, yeah, I want you in the film. Go to the pub, learn your lines. He said, I had a couple of drinks. So by the time I had to do the scene, being pulled out of bed, the costume lady had to pour coffee into me before I went onto the set. There was no audition. I just jumped straight in. I didn't have a clue what it was about. I remember standing in front of P.H. Moriarty and Bob Hoskins, and I was scared. I thought, oh my God, what am I doing here? This guy's a gangster. It was my first time doing stuff like that. I thought I was involved in a snuff movie.
Oh God, well, yeah. That explains the look of terror in his eyes.
They were interrogating me. P.H. Moriarty had a machete. He said they called him the human spirograph because he had so many scars. I played it fearful because I was. I was genuinely nearly crying when they did that take. Bob looked at me as if to say, you've melted my heart, mate. He was so great, so generous, so patient. And like he'd done the full Monty years later, and he met them at the polo match. And he said, what we're supposed to be doing? He was like, oh, actually, I'll not read that bit because I hadn't read that before, and that's really not appropriate. But the other one was, do you remember in the yacht behind where Bob sat, there were 2 sabres on the back wall?
Okay.
Yeah. Now, this was a scene that was cut. So, when he's having a go with Jeff.
Yeah. Did you use the sabres?
He said there was actually a sabre scene.
Oh.
Originally, they had 2 sabres displayed on the bulkhead of the boat. When he lost his temper, he ripped one down and cut Jeff's head off.
Oh, right. Okay. That's more like it.
This is Helen Mirren talking. She says, I don't know whether it was budget considerations or good taste, but they cut it.
Good taste. You make a film about British gangsters, and it's like, yeah, okay.
So he got the bottle to the neck instead.
Right.
So yeah, pretty gruesome, that, wouldn't it?
Mm.
Your criteria, Charles, for successful gangster films is how elaborate and how widespread the bloodletting is. Is that right? Yeah?
So let's talk about the gold standard of gangster films. All have that.
Yeah, but maybe the British alternative. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, Goodfellas, Godfather. These are some of my favourite films. What do you think? I know it's not strictly a gangster film, but what do you think about Kill Bill? Were you a fan of?
Oh
that?
yes,
Love
wonderful.
Kill Bill.
And I'm a fan of the Japanese cut, which removes the imposed black and white on the bride going against the crazy 88 at the end, and puts it back into color. He was told there's so much blood in this, you're going to have to make it black and white, which he reluctantly did. But I have a copy of the one with the color, and it's glorious. It's just far better. Everyone thinks, oh, how arty. And he's like, well, I didn't want to do it. I had to do it in order to get the film through.
Yeah, you see, I'm just not a fan of Kill Bill at
What?
all. I would rather see two blokes fighting on the floor with a broken bottle in the neck than the martial arts, the karate. Dare I call it?
Karate.
Karate. Yeah. Yeah, karate. Yeah. That old chestnut. There's never going to be a season where that's not going to come up.
If you're going to shoehorn Howard the Duck in, then I'm going to get karate.
Fine.
Oh, you call it karate?
No, I'm taking the mickey out of Charles. Nobody calls it karate apart from
Karate. I went to see the Karate Kid.
It's karate.
It is.
It's like Yahtzee. Karate.
Yahtzee, you mean?
God. Here we go.
Anyway. Okay. I've got Bob Hoskins' voice was dubbed over. This is sometimes when you get trivia, you go, I can believe it but there's something not right about it. Bob Hoskins' voice was dubbed over by a Wolverhampton actor for fear Americans wouldn't understand his London accent.
That's rubbish.
Well, because Black Country is really much more decipherable, isn't it?
After Hoskins threatened to sue Jack Gill and British Lion, the original producers before Handmade bought the rights, the dubbing was removed. He was supported by Richard Burton and Sir Alec Guinness.
Huh?
Well, the thing about it is all the stuff that goes on where I get my trivia from has to get verified. So it's not like it's Wikipedia standards, but in a 2008 autobiography, In the Frame, My Life in Words and Pictures, Helen Mirren claims that it was her insistence that her character, Victoria, was made into a more complex character than just the stereotypical mob girlfriend.
That's right, because she spoke about that in the article that I've just read out in The Guardian. Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
I find that very, very believable, by the way, as well. I think if she hadn't have done it, would have been a far weaker film. It needed.
It wouldn't have
just
got
in the
the
background
accolade that it did. No.
But how could you? At the time, she'd made some sort of prolific stuff at the time. I'm not just talking about Caligula. She made other films, but obviously she was being respected in that way. She's. You wouldn't just put her into the film and put her into the background just to look good. She actually, as I say, it holds the film together. Speaking of things which are probably true, in the car, Bob Hoskins, the director told Bob Hoskins the camera would be on him for 5 minutes non-stop. That was going to be the shot, which is why you probably get those range of emotions. And you could see that because what do we probably get? A total of, just over a minute, maybe? Something like that. But it's quite a hard thing to do.
I think it's longer. I think, I'd encourage you both off the back of this discussion we've had. Go back and watch it from that when they're in the scene with the hotel to the end, which isn't actually that long. But I'm sure
because of what you said, actually, I might just do that because it probably will put a different slant on it. So the movie was picked up by George Harrison's Handmade Films Limited after being started for a television release by ITC. Upon viewing his newly purchased production for the first time, George Harrison said he'd never have approved such a violent movie had this begun under Handmade. If he'd started this film, he never would have greenlit the film.
It wasn't that violent.
Yeah, well, the thing about it is George Harrison, as I got asked yesterday by Amy, was name the Beatles in order of talent. To which I said George Harrison, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, and Ringo Starr in that order.
I think
George Harrison.
I think you've lost a few listeners now.
Not at all. And I hope I might gain some because they'll go, "Oh, this guy Charlie knows his stuff." George Harrison is the glue without George Harrison, the Beatles aren't as successful. Easy. His George Harrison will. I mean, I know he's been dead for quite a while now, but I mean, his legacy is, he's just Paul McCartney can't sing like Elton John, can't sing, and he's going to be headlining Glastonbury. Are you kidding me?
Mm.
It's going to be a mass sing along like an Elton John. It's it's always going to be like that old Frank Skinner gag where they actually no, I won't go into that. People won't even know who that is, but it's can't take my eyes off you. It's a great piece. So a version made for American audiences begins with the screen showing a glossary of Cockney and London mobster terms, along with their definitions. It says it's been suggested that this inspired Quentin Tarantino to begin Pulp Fiction with a written definition of Pulp Fiction. That's rubbish. That can't be true. I mean, I've seen, if you haven't seen it, I know we've mentioned it, but the Joe Rogan interview with Quentin Tarantino.
Oh, we haven't finished that.
We have? Oh, I did.
Oh,
okay. Oh, well, I'll go back and watch
about
that.
an hour to go on that.
I'll go and watch that bit again. It's fine.
Cheers.
I've never heard him cite that as an example, but
No.
I think a lot of things go on in his head. The pub that was blown up by the bomb was in reality a fake, built with wood in Wapping.
It looked like.
The director talks on the DVD commentary of how people walked in, tried to order drinks, refusing to believe it was a movie set. Does look a bit out of place. A sequel was announced in 1983.
Yeah, I read about that.
3 years after the film was released, the sequel's opening scene was to be the final scene in the movie. Oh, here we go. Sorry. With Harold Shand being miraculously rescued from his IRA captors in the limousine. Right. Okay.
Yeah, that was in the article.
In the final scene, when Shand gets in the Jaguar and says, "Hold on, where's Victoria?" The scene quickly cuts to a shot of Victoria being restrained in another car, which pulls away in the opposite direction. At the beginning of that shot, you get a glimpse of Razors, his driver and bodyguard, slumped over in the front seat dead, a bloody bullet hole to the side of his head. It's so quick, you have to pause the movie in order to see it. And when I read that piece of trivia, I'm like, yeah, that would make sense, because how would you do it without killing him? You'd have to kill him in order to pull that off. So for all those people that were watching it and going, wait a minute, did Razors run away? Nope. Probably fought to the bitter end. Anyway, Dom you had some other trivia.
Some George Harrison trivia. You reminded me of. Couldn't quite get it in when you were talking. Okay. Yeah, I don't think he's the most talented member of the Beatles, but Frank Sinatra paid him the ultimate compliment and said that his song "Something" was the best love song written in the last 50 years. Which, Frank Sinatra's saying that to you, then fair play. But now I've got one good bit of trivia today, which is about Anthony Hoskins, Bob Hoskins, excuse me.
His brother, Anthony. Yeah,
yeah. It's so Bob Hoskins was slated to be the last-minute replacement for Robert De Niro in case he refused the Al Capone role in Untouchables.
No.
Yeah, and when De Niro did indeed sign on, Brian De Palma sent Bob Hoskins a check for $200,000. To kind of compensate him for wasting his time. So Hoskins was moved to call Brian De Palma and ask if there were any other films he wasn't needed for, which I thought was.
I like that.
So that's my Hoskins fact for the day.
That's a good one to end on.
I've got a little bit more about the supposed sequel.
Okay.
So Barry Keefe wrote a sequel, Black Easter Monday, set 20 years after the film, after the first film. It opened with Bob Hoskins' character, Harold Shand, escaping from the IRA after the car was pulled over by police. Shand would retire to Jamaica, then return to stop the East End being taken over by the Yardies. However, the film was never made. In one of his last interviews, Keefe seemed unconcerned by the lack of development He said, in some ways, I'm glad we didn't, because sequels are usually
Oh dear.
sequels are usually diminishing returns. To put it
Yeah.
up there with Casablanca, no one wants Casablanca 2.
True.
So yeah, apparently he had written a sequel, but it never got made.
Wow. It would have been nice if they had a tie-in with Ben Kingsley and Ray Winston from Sexy Beasts, and somehow, I don't know.
I'm not sure about battling Yardies, but I do think it's a sort of film that you could envisage a sequel, because part of the point of the film and part of the kind of, I think, one of the things that works about it is it does give this snapshot of London just before Thatcher and the 80s and the regeneration of the Docklands and all that, which is obviously referenced in the film. So to kind of go back and revisit it in, I don't know, 2010 or 2020, and it's now this urban metropolis full of Russian money. There's maybe there's something to be said there, but sadly Bob Hoskins is dead, isn't he? So that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
but,
20, is it 2014? I think. 2014, I think.
2014, he passed on, yeah.
71. Yeah, a bit more to go in him, but still.
Ray Winston could play him in the sequel, because he has been ripping off Bob Hoskins' career for
pretty much. Yeah.
Why not go the whole hog and actually impersonate him properly?
So I think about Ray Winston, and I just think I can never forgive him for Indiana Jones and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So
if you couldn't forget him for that, you certainly can't forgive him for those dreadful betting adverts, which just spoiled my enjoyment of football matches. Yeah.
I just want to point out, by the way, I was reading what it said and quoted Yardies, and I hadn't realised that that is a derogatory term. So I didn't mean
it's just a description of a gang. That's all it is.
It's often used particularly with the Caribbean expatriates and Jamaican community.
They used it in Predator 2, so it's fine.
Okay.
It's like saying triads, for Japanese or Chinese gangsters, like a collective name for the gangs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
it's all right. You don't have to issue a disclaimer on that one. We're not going to.
Well, I just didn't want it.
Some of the conversations we've had, we should have been shut down. It's fine. We skirt quite closely to it. Anyway, well, this draws the long Good Friday to a close.
Mm.
Do you know what? It was a good pick. I don't know who picked it. It wasn't me. I don't remember who came up with it.
I'd written it on the list.
And then had I discussed with you, Dom, and you went, yeah, definitely, I want to come in and do Long Good Friday.
I think I wanted to do a British film for a while, and
yes.
Lo and behold, we've done. I know the Fish Called Wonder, and now this is the second one, isn't it? So maybe in another couple of seasons.
Maybe. I don't put your. We got Police Academy to do next, so that's from highbrow British gritty drama to a guy impersonating a shotgun. I'm looking forward to it. I genuinely love Police Academy. I love the Police Academy films, apart from the final one. Because yes, it should have stopped at 6. I know, but anyway. But we'll get to that. So yes, the next time you'll see Dom will be when we do Police Academy in a few podcast time. Much hilarity. Just go watch it. Just go watch it now. Don't wait for. Watch it now and then watch it just before. We should do trailers or something. We should know, actually, I think, what film we're going to do next. And I don't know what film we're going to do next. We keep mentioning RoboCop, but yeah, I kind of watched that the other day.
Why did you do that?
No, I didn't watch RoboCop. I watched RoboCop 2. I didn't watch RoboCop, but I watched RoboCop 2, and then it made me remember RoboCop. I'm like, yeah, okay. So yeah, I haven't watched it in a while, but I do remember I'll buy that for $1. But yeah. Anyway, we don't know what we're going to do next. So yeah, there was I going to trail the next podcast. I've no idea, but it'll definitely be Cops and Robbers, and it definitely won't be Bond, and won't have any ducks in it. So, and not be British. There you go. That's how we do it. Anyway, so Dom, usually at this point, we if we have Joe on and we say, oh, how can we find you? We don't. It's just keep it under the radar, and yeah.
Oh, hang on, we can quote the movie Yellow Pages.
Yeah, they can find you in Yellow Pages. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, thank you very much for having me on your pod.
Oh, we'd love having you on. I mean, God, you look at privately. I know he won't want me to say this, but privately, he said the first time that he did Nightmare on Elm Street, he was like really nervous about it. And then you like, for those that have listened to Dom come on the podcast and, you know, guest, you know, with myself, me, him and Joe, you know, Joe's been kind of like doing this for years. I'm kind of following Joe's lead and trying to be as good as that. And hopefully I'm getting there, because I know I talk to him quite a lot, but you know, it's a pleasure to have you on, man, because, you know, I thought you had a storming first start, and now it's great to have you on a bit more regularly. So
yeah, you're part of the Rusted Junk crew.
Yeah, of course he is. Of course he is.
Well,
especially when he gives.
And anytime you want me on, I'm looking forward to Police Academy next. I'll. Yeah,
well, you can do that. I won't be involved in that.
Oh, plus he gives he gives amazing birthday presents. That birthday present, mate, is amazing. Thank you. It's the gift that keeps on giving. He bought a voucher. I know it sounds it, but he actually put some thought into the actual brewery that I like. So I ended up getting you get one of everything from the Tiny Rebel Brewery, and it is just joyous because I know I've got all of that to go through. So I'm waiting for sunnier weather.
Well, normally I'm one to take a compliment, but you might want to just consider who it was that gave you the idea that you might like that brewery.
Ah, right, okay.
Don't need to look too far from home. So
some bit of collusion between my other the colleagues on the podcast. I see. Right. Anyway, you can find us on Facebook, Rusted Junk. I did try it the other day. There is nothing else that comes up. So
we're very unique.
Rusted Junk. I still think it's a great name. Why we picked it. A good line from a very poor film. But still. That's the podcast. That's who we are. We're going to ramp up the Instagram and the Twitter. I'm going to start thinking about it and start marketing it a little bit more, because we're getting a lot more traction on the audio, but not as much as I'd like with video. For
Maybe
instance,
people just don't want to watch stuff.
Well, yeah, probably. Well, I don't know, because I do. There's a podcast that's 4.5 hours long. They record
What?
every Friday. Yeah, it's
2.5. Sorry, who on earth has 4.5 hours?
the people who watch Friday Night Tights every month.
Oh yeah,
every
but that's
week.
on at the time and it's live.
Yeah,
and you just
absolutely.
do that,
Yeah,
and it's
okay. Well,
Friday night
maybe
and
we
it's
might do.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe we might do live. To put it in context, the video that I put on my own channel rather than Rusted Junk channel on YouTube, Peter Hook and the Light at Let's Rock Shrewsbury last year, doing Blue Monday. Dom, do you want to take a guess on how many views that's had?
1,000.
13,000. 13,000 views. I know I've got a good camera, but I went to see the Psychedelic Furs in Nottingham at the weekend. I posted that on. All of those have had over 100 views. And I'm kind of like, yeah, can we get a bit more for the Rusted Junk? Because
Maybe you should do one of those things. If you like this, watch this.
Or maybe I should just, like, I don't know, give somebody some money to market it properly. I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, it's been a delight. It's been great to have you on, Dom. And we'll see you for the next podcast.
Cheers, Papa Dom.
Yeah.
Pleasure. See you soon, everybody.
Yeah. Cheerio. See you later.
Toodle pip.